Acts, Genesis, prophets, till the time of the end. Keep exegesis in check, give hermeneutics respect. Stay in context, theologically correct. Now make an impact, word of Yahweh in effect. Get your study on, let your mind be blown in this Bible chat. Hey, and this Bible chat, study on.
Well, hello. Welcome to Bible Chat, a ministry of Potter and Clay Christian education, where we are here to encourage, strengthen, and empower you through the Word of God. My name is Erica, and today we're going to talk about the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verses 1 through 25. Let's get started. So, when we open up the book of Genesis and we see that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Then as we move on, we see this earth that is empty and void. It has no light, it has no life, and it is completely in chaos. Then we see the Spirit of God hovering over the waters. It's like God is about to do something. He's about to take action. And so then he begins to speak. And when he speaks, things begin to change. And we see the Lord as he brings forth light. Then he brings forth order as he begins to separate the land from the waters and the waters from the waters. And then we see as he starts to bring about life. As we see vegetation and we begin to see animals come in of the sea and of the land and even creepy crawly things. Ugh. Okay, so notice that it says in the beginning God created the heavens, plural, and the earth. How many heavens are there? So in Jewish thought there are actually 3 heavens. You have the place where birds fly. Then you have like the celestial heavens. Did I say that word right? Okay, so you have that heaven where like the stars and the moon and all that is. Celestial, the second heaven. And then you have the third heaven, which is the place where God dwells. People have also talked about now, when God created all these different things on these different days, are these like 24-hour days, or just like 1,000 years or 100 years in between that? So when I think about it, we're just gonna go with the 24-hour thing. It just seems that if Moses wanted to say that there were 1,000 years or 100 years in between that, it's more than likely he would have just said that. We're gonna go with 24 hours. What exactly is that light that shows up in like verse 3? Especially considering that the sun didn't show up until verse 16. We don't know. It could have been just like some illuminating light or just some sort of source that God kind of put into place. We don't know. Maybe it could have just been the presence of God. I don't know. We really don't know. But it's an interesting question, isn't it? I'd say so. God allows the darkness to remain for a season and for a reason. The darkness that we experience here on earth is also temporal. When we live with God in eternity, for there will be no more darkness, it'll all just be when we have dark times and dark seasons in our life, we have to remember that those things are too temporal, and it's only for a season, and it's for a reason. It is for a divine purpose. And just like the Lord never said that the darkness was good, but he will use it for good. Just like all the things that we go through in our life, not everything that we experience is actually good, but God made this promise that he will take that which is good and that which is bad, which are all things work together. All of it. All things work together for good for those who love the Lord and are called called according to his purpose. Then we also notice that God created two lights. You have the sun and the moon, the greater and the lesser. And so one would rule the day and the other will rule the night. You have this light that will rule over the darkness. How profound is that? I think that's very profound. Very profound. It speaks to me. Does it speak to you? It speaks. So when we're in those dark times of our lives, it's like we should be looking for the moonlight, because that light is like a glimmer of hope. Think about it this way. Think about a child who is afraid of the dark. And so what happens is that child is restless. He can't sleep because he's petrified of the darkness. He doesn't know what's in there until mom or dad comes in with that little nightlight. And they put that nightlight in, and then suddenly this child's fear dissipates. Nightlight doesn't necessarily glow the whole room with this overwhelming light. No, but it's just enough light so he can just see a little bit of what's in the darkness. And then somehow this little bit of light, this little bit of hope just brings to him some peace and comfort so that he can relax and sleep and rest until the morning light. And in our lives, we should be operating the same way, because when things are dark, we have to look for that glimmer of hope, whether it be something that we found in the Word of God or just looking for the little lights that God has put in our lives to give us some hope. I'll give you an example. I've always struggled with mental health issues, in particularly with PTSD and bipolar disorder. And so what's interesting is with this struggle comes thoughts of suicide or suicide ideation. And so what happens is I would get that way because for me, circumstance and everything seems so dark and it seems hopeless. Like, where is my hope? But God has put little lights in my life so that I can have that glimmer of hope, whether it be the Word of God, certain things that I find in the Word of God. I'm going to tell you that one of the things that really helped me was reading the story of King David, and I'll get to it later. But so many things that King David did that kind of gave me hope about me as an individual, because he was always jacking something up. So am I. We have that in common. But God did amazing things through King David, so maybe he can do great things through me. And then I had two little boys, and I would look at their faces, these beautiful faces of these wonderful kids, and they too were the little lights in my life. It was through them and just looking at them like I would find some sort of hope in my life that maybe, just maybe, things will get better. Maybe my latter days will be greater than my former. Just maybe. And so we have to be constantly looking for that moonlight to kind of guide us and get us through the night until the daylight comes. In looking for that light in the darkness, also remember that we are to be the light in the darkness. We are to be those moonlight and the little starlights that glisten in the darkness for other people to see. And how do we be that light? We do that by exemplifying the character and nature of God. You ever notice that if you hang around with somebody long enough, you'll start picking up on some of the things they do, like some of their habits might become your habits. I had this friend, right, who used to always say, cool beans, cool beans, cool beans. And I was like, oh my gosh, girl, could you please stop saying cool beans? That's like so corny. Like, who says that? 3 months later, suddenly I'm like, what? Cool beans. As it is in the natural, so it is in the spiritual. Because what happens is, if you're one of those people who spends a lot of time with God in relationship, in His Word, and just in His presence where you're talking to Him in prayer, you begin to pick up on His characteristics, and you start doing things that reflect something that He would do, or saying things that start reflecting things that He would say. And when we start reflecting the character and the nature of God, we become that glimmer of light that shines in the darkness. Like people who are walking out at night and they're like, how do I find my way home? I'll follow the North Star. Or where is the star in there? Be that North Star. Be that star. Be that light that shows people their way to the Father. Well, I hope you learned something. And if not, I'm sorry. So, until next time.
Get it? Sitting here thinking, contemplating about the glory of the Lord. Yo, I can't explain it. He's got all power in his hands. I don't understand how he can love a sinner who rebels against his plans. What he can do is amazing. He's always demonstrating as I'm sitting here, stargazing, holding